Hi guys, this is the Land Rover Discovery Sport. Alright, so what is it? Previously Land Rover had the Freelander. Alright, so now they no longer sell the Freelander, and the Discovery Sport here, well, it is sort of like an indirect replacement of the Freelander lah. Price wise, it occupies the same pricing segment as the Range Rover Evoque, okay, but of course the Discovery Sport here, carrying, being a proper Land Rover as opposed to being a Range Rover, okay, it occupies a less luxurious and a more rugged positioning, all right, versus the Evoque. And also in some markets the Discovery Sport is a 5+2 seater, but the one that we are getting here, this is a 5-seater model. All right, so right from the outside, proportions, classic Land Rover. All right, in fact, right, this is supposed to be an X3 competitor, but in person, right, now that I'm standing from the side, right, the lines of this car actually amplifies its size, its proportions. So it actually looks bigger and more imposing than it really is. All right. So this is the latest generation Land Rover corporate face, right? Slim headlights and two bar grill there. All right. Pretty chunky. All right. Pretty chunky, and looks at the same, and you look closer, there are some nice details here on the headlamps, all right, and there's these patterns here on the grille, okay, and of course they spell out the Discovery name here on the bonnet. All right, the lower parts of the bumper, very understated, nice, neatly styled. All right, alloy wheels, also simple design, 19 inches, and they have this fake vent. Looks like a fake vent to me. Yep, it's a fake vent. Yep, simple lines here at the side, running along the side also, and the tail lights. All right, has this nice, round illumination signature. Okay, looks good at night, and of course here, nicely embedded in here, the fog lamps and the lower reflectors. Okay, overall, typical Land Rover, very simple, very understated design, but at the same time very respectable looking. So here, powered tailgate. So this is the boot. Being the 5-seater model, you naturally get a bigger boot. All right, and this is a removable tonneau cover, but I don't see any obvious place to stow it away. They didn't provide any slots here for you to jump out your tonneau cover. So yeah, when you take this off, you have to think of where to put it. Yeah, no obvious locations in here to put it. It's a 12-volt socket here, and here, these are switches where you pull to release the seats. All right, and now we come to the front here and press this down. Okay, we see that it is a relatively seamless floor. Let me just adjust the seat back. Yep, the seat offers a front back adjustment. You can lock this in place. It is relatively seamless, but not perfectly flat. All right, and and since this being a 5+2, being the regular 5-seater, and the boot is actually relatively huge, I wonder why they even put the forward backward adjustment for this. I think it's not entirely necessary, in my opinion. So the release of this seat is mechanical, so you fold back up, and here are the ISOFIX mounts, which I always appreciate ISOFIX mounts that are easy to locate. Right, makes installation of the child seat easier. Right, so now with the seats back up, looks like decently spacious accommodations. I'll test out the room later on my frame, but now I bring the rear armrest down. Okay, so here, all right, so there's a hidden compartment here, but I would appreciate if, let's say, like the armrest doesn't move about so much when brought down. No central air con vents, but they have them on the B pillar. What you have here instead are 2 USB ports and a 12-volt socket. The leg room here looks very good, but let me just step inside. And well, decent thigh support. Angle's a little shallow, but it does reach the back of my thigh. And let me just show you the headroom. All right, remember there's a sunroof mechanism, there's a panoramic roof mechanism up there. So yeah, it's a panoramic roof mechanism up there. Yeah, decently spacious at the back. I'll jump over to the front. Here at the front, so look at the door card. Well, I like this this trim element here, but this door card's color scheme a little too plain for my liking, right? So you see here, right, it's a different material grade here. This looks like what, leather or Alcantara? Well, yeah, it's nice to the touch, soft materials. This is hard. Well, this is hard, surprisingly hard. Meridian speakers at the back. Yeah, so this door, yeah, they could have given a better mix of colors here. Same goes to the dashboard. A very monotonous color scheme here, despite the difference in materials, right? So this is a different grade of material. This one is hard plastic. This is another soft touch plastic with stitching here, and the bottom here is hard plastic. Okay, here this is a brushed metal finish here. Let me just start the engine first. Brushed metal finish here, but what surprises me is this matte black, this kind of plastic trim. I'm surprised it has a place here in a 300 over 1,000 ringgit car. Okay, come down here. This is I mean, I would have expected a plusher looking material here, all right, along this whole part of the dash, but I suppose maybe Land Rover wants to consciously position this as a less plush and more rugged alternative to the Evoque, but I really think they could have exerted a bit more effort onto this lah. Okay, build quality seems to feel rather solid. No unwanted squeaks or rattles that I can detect. Switchgear quality, all right, feels okay, feels good. Let me just, okay, dialed up too much. And fan speed. So here's the rotary gear selector. You have to press this to engage sport, and yep. Okay, so this one, this knob shrinks flat into the surface when you turn off the engine. And here, inside here, oh nice, you got another USB port in there. Let me see this button here. Press this so you can eject this and open up a deeper tray in there. And it's not just that, you see, this is, you know, it actually, this slot actually goes in, so it is deep and it swallows a healthy amount of things. Not bad. All right, inside here, another USB port, 12-volt socket. The box itself, the amount of storage space itself is rather less, but I think most of you would probably appreciate the USB port and 12-volt socket in there rather than the space, right? I think I would. All right, so just put this back here. Close this. Here's the instrument cluster. Well, you got a traditional analog gauge, but in the middle we have a nice color screen in there. Looks nice. Looks nice here. Nice color screen, good resolution. Here is the center touchscreen. Is it a touchscreen? Yes, it's a touchscreen. And you got shortcut buttons here. Buttons feel good to the touch. Right. Okay, no. Yeah. So, also here you get to choose the various four-wheel drive modes. This is normal, I believe. Normal. This is snow. Sorry, wrong one. Snow. And what's this? Low traction launch. Okay, so the various four-wheel drive selection modes are here. Yeah, so the cabin is it feels solid, but doesn't feel convincingly luxurious to match up to the price. Oh, so one more thing. There's this odd positioning of the power window switches. I know this is a Land Rover trademark, but it does take some getting used to. And in the Discovery Sport here, you are sitting rather low, okay? And the power window switch here, right, is almost to the level of my neck. Right, almost to the level of my neck. Yeah, takes some getting used to. Right, so let's go for a drive. Okay, so the Discovery Sport, right? So this car, the Discovery Sport here is powered by JLR's 2-liter Ingenium engine, 240 PS, 340 Newton meters of torque, 2-liter 4 cylinders mated to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And thus far, I would say the overall performance of it not particularly convincing. I mean, yes, the engine packs a punch, but at the same time, you know, it needs to be dragged, kicking and screaming its way all the way to the top, up the rev range, which to me is a surprising trait for an engine that is also expected to do duty in various Jaguar models. This Ingenium engine, don't forget, it is supposed to be Jaguar Land Rover's next generation of engines. So the refinement levels that I'm experiencing here is surprising. And the pairing between engine and transmission also somehow isn't entirely convincing. Right? It's yeah, I mean it is a 9-speed transmission, but it somehow doesn't feel like it is making use of all 9 speeds. In fact, sometimes it feels like it doesn't know what to do with so many gears. It's like the transmission is asking you, why are you giving me so many gears? It's like there are 3 gears too many. I mean, this car is fast when you get it going, but you know, progress is not exactly smooth sailing. The ride quality is alright, right? If you take this over a bump, pothole, expansion joints, all these you know, sudden disturbances, right? It copes well enough, alright? It doesn't break your bones if you whack a speed bump too quickly. But what it is not particularly convincing is on the long wave undulations, which actually do cause the cabin to wallow a bit. See that? It feels as if the engine it does not rev with joy. Some engines, right, they may not be particularly powerful, but you know, when you rev it, when you pull it up to 5,000, 6,000 RPM, you feel that the engine is singing and dancing its way up the tachometer. This car does not give you that kind of feeling. Brakes are good. They bite well. Now, on paper, the Discovery Sport has all the necessary ingredients to be a best-selling product, right? It is a right-sized SUV, not just in body size, but also in terms of its engine capacity versus performance, right? So, and plus the fact that it is a Land Rover, so with that badge comes a premium that it can command. Now, the problem, however, is that the execution of the product, it does not quite match up to the premium, because firstly, the engine utterly lacks the kind of refinement that you would expect at this price. Now, mechanically speaking, there's no doubt that the Discovery Sport is shall we say, up to spec, right? We know that Land Rover don't give you substandard 4-wheel drive systems, but the fact is that the engine really feels very rough and very unpolished. But that's not all. The exterior design, it looks very handsome, right? This car is pleasant to look at from the outside, but inside, the cabin it is solidly built, but it lacks the plushness that you come to expect of this price tag. So what I would say is that, simply put, the Discovery Sport, it is a decently put together vehicle, but it just has not done enough to command the kind of price that Land Rover is asking for.